Hey folks, welcome back to Gaming Garbage, where we take a look at games, chat about the gaming news in the industry, and of course, stream for fun. Today we're taking a look at Gaming News Consolidated. This is where I look at a lot of videos for the week, and also articles too, and I kind of consolidate the major news. Now, there wasn't very much last week. There wasn't very much last week. And so we're doing 2 weeks here. This is June 16th through the 29th. So this is 2 weeks worth of news. And again, we only got about 3 pages. Again, there's not too much going on right now after those showcases. So today we're going to talk about FromSoftware, Shadow of the Erdtree. We're going to talk some into kind of the future of FromSoftware, of what they're working on after Elden Ring. And then we're also going to talk about Shadow of the Erdtree and how it's being received. We're also going to talk about some Starfield content along with like the mods and us getting a second DLC and a little bit on the Todd Howard interview that Mr. Matty Plays had, which I will link down in the description below. It is honestly really good. We're going to talk about some stuff about Star Citizen, which kind of seems unfair. I'll get into that in just a second. We're also going to talk a little bit about Nintendo Direct. I'll also link this down below if you're interested. I also consolidated this down for folks, and this is actually live already. And then we're going to talk about Bit Reactor making a Star Wars game. We're going to talk a little bit about that. We're also going to talk about Ubisoft and Good and Evil, Beyond Good and Evil, excuse me. We're also going to talk about another studio closure. We're going to talk about another game being delisted by the end of this year. And then we're also going to talk about something interesting with PC players and what they're using to play their games on. And then last mention will be Gamescom. So again, thanks for tuning in, folks. You can always follow me at GamingGarbage22 over at YouTube. Also, don't tread on Twitch. And then don't forget our Discord, not just to chat, mingle, but also to find others to play with, regardless of game or console. And or platform, excuse me, regardless of game or platform. And don't forget, too, that if you're on Xbox and interested, the boys and I were going to play some our COD event in Infinite Warfare, Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, and just play some good old gun game. And, hey, we'd like you guys to join us. You know, that used to be normal to have multiplayer, to have fun. Remember that, folks? People talking in the lobby, having some friendly competition. And, you know, we don't really have that anymore. It's kind of a bummer, so go ahead and join us for that. All right, let's go ahead and get into this. So first, we're going to talk about FromSoftware. So we had an interview, it looks like a couple of interviews actually, where he's working on his ideal RPG. Now, we've gleaned a little bit that this is he'd really like to make a Japanese RPG. These are ones that he grew up with, he really enjoyed. And so far, he's not able to give really any ideas or hints or time frame. But he says Elden Ring is really close to his perfect RPG, but it's not quite there. There's a few other things that he wants to add or kind of find that perfect spot for him to be able to develop, and they're currently working on something. Again, we don't know what it is. We don't know what's going to be changed or whatever, and I got to say Elden Ring is their best game so far to date. I think it's made in such a way that it's very inclusive in gameplay, in level difficulty, and the ability for multiplayer and PvP. There's tons of choices with anything from magic to incantations, spells, being a heavy tank to being an assassin and anywhere in between, and mixing it up and playing how you want to play. It's done a wonderful job of being able to allow people to build their playstyle. But I am curious what it's going to be, because he's already made Demon Souls. He's already made the 3 Dark Souls games, Bloodborne, Sekiro, and Elden Ring. And none of these are quite perfect in his opinion. So his next game, he's trying to make it perfect. He's really trying to make it perfect. He is an older guy, so he doesn't have forever, and he's probably going to try to make it before he actually dips out and retires. So we'll have to see. He was asked about Bloodborne for PC, and he said, so there's certain things he can't say because of Sony, but he basically said yes in so many words. But Sony is the one that's got to push the button and give the okay for it. So there you have it, folks. Bloodborne is only going to be on PlayStation. Now, I think when PlayStation sales get low enough for certain games, which that's been happening for everybody right now, I think eventually they will push that button because they know it'll be easy money. If it goes on PC, there's going to be millions of copies sold to play Bloodborne, maybe even tens of millions. I got no doubt in my mind. So next, let's talk about the Shadow of the Erdtree. So this started strong. It's very positive reviews. People really enjoyed it. Of course, that was like day 1, day 2. Well, as time went on, this went from like 95% liked on Steam down to the 60s, mixed. And players, well, what the heck were they looking at? Well, part of the complaint was issues with performance. So again, this was on PC. Steam is PC, and yeah, they were having performance issues. There were some audio bugs. There were frame rate problems. I even have to admit, too, that on Xbox Series X, I have frame rate issues, too, where, again, it's like there's multiple enemies, or like something comes into the frame, or like a really big incantation or spell or something, and my frame rates drop in the game. Not enough to really affect gameplay. But for some people, I guess actually on PC it's pretty bad, because we're looking at like, getting a solid 70, 60 frames per second, and then they're dropping down to the 30s or even the 20s, and that is a massive, massive dip. Again, games that have that, it is pretty brutal to try to play something competitive that way, regardless of what type of combat it is. Players, too, are finding out there's again, some of these audio issues where stuff doesn't come in like it should. Very rarely, there's been also a few people where the game just crashes or it freezes on a screen. So yeah, it's certainly not perfect, but again, no PC port has been. I would say PC usually has the most buggiest stuff. And again, that's the platform they choose. And we all choose what we decide to play on for our own reasons. But yeah, ports just have never been very good, and I feel like they can't get ports right for PC. So yeah, there's definitely going to be some patches coming. Okay, they heard these issues, they're going to be working on it. People too are also frustrated that the game is too hard. But before I get into that, a lot of these negative reviews on Steam are actually coming from China, and they mentioned in the review Blue Bear. Now, what the heck is that? Blue Bear is the anti-cheat software that FromSoftware uses in their game. And so the Chinese are frustrated that they can't cheat. I mean, just let that sink in for a bit. And a lot of these, maybe not most, but a lot of these reviews, a really good portion of them, are from Chinese that talk about the Blue Bear. So take that for what it is. Generally, people are really liking the game, but also some are saying that it's too difficult. And one, you have to beat Radon, and you have to beat Moog in the base game in order to progress forward. Again, these are main characters in the lore, and that's what you got to do. And they are some of the tougher bosses in the game, right up there with Millennia. Also, too, the expansion, for those that have made it past that, have a whole new level of difficulty that they're stepping into. Being a level 200 myself, I'm just getting my butt handed. And it is brutal. This is the hardest bosses, hardest base enemies, hardest environments. There's even more of a change with like trying to read the sequences of attacks of certain enemies or even bosses. There's more variability and lag time before the strike finally comes down on you, or there's more AoE as well, or even attacks that have both AoE and actual physical damage and knockback and all of that stuff. So you really feel pretty flippin' worthless, and you gotta grind up for a while. But they actually have a way to combat this. Again, there's fragments in the game, and these fragments help boost you up. Now, when you add all of these fragments together, you're getting an 80% increase in damage. Let me say that again. You're getting an 80% increase in damage when you've found them all and you've leveled up to the max, and you're also getting a 40% reduction in damage taken. So again, if people don't want to go for the fragments, that's fine, but hey, there is a mechanic definitely in the game to help bolster you up and make the game, give or take, roughly half as difficult, okay, compared to where it should be. You're almost doubling your damage, and you're almost taking half of the resistance. Plus, there's other talismans, too, that you can take to negate damage. Again, not everybody uses those, but I'm already at like 53% for most physical damage, and mid-40s for like fire and spell and magic and whatever. And if you have certain bosses, they have certain elements they like to use, like fire or lightning or magic or whatever, and you can combat against that with talismans. So you can kind of cater your talisman docket to, negate some of the damage that you're going to take from some of these bosses. So use some of that, folks. Also, too, I think people are missing the biggest point of the game. While it is to tell a story, it's not to be done alone. Again, you can do this, but again, this is the easiest game we've ever had from FromSoftware to be able to play multiplayer. Just the stability, too, of the servers and everything, and there's millions of people playing, and so just put your sign down and be able to get called in. Put it down at summoning pools. Use summoning pools to call people in or find people, and basically they're always at boss stores. Again, doesn't really matter if it's base game, doesn't really matter if it's the DLC or both. Okay, just be available. Now, I have tried this. If you put it at a summoning pool available to everybody, you can also get called in to Shadow of the Erdtree DLC if you have that in your game. So just remember that you can basically be called anywhere, regardless of putting your sign down in the base game or not. Now, if you want to be for a specific boss, of course, put it down at the door. Or if you want to play with a certain player, make sure you use a password so you're not taken up by anybody else. But yeah, there's mechanics in the game to make it easier. And again, if you don't want to necessarily play to make it easier for yourself, that's okay. Play the way you wish to play. The game is supposed to be fun. And for those that are freaking diehard insane fans, screw you guys. Let people play the game and don't try to shame them because, they didn't one-hit Melania nude or whatever. Okay? Seriously, folks. Just let people enjoy the game with how they want to play it. That's what we are. We're gamers, okay? We all have different styles. And that's something, too, with multiplayer in the game is that people aren't going to necessarily bolster your strengths. They're going to fill in, more likely, your weaknesses with different play styles. And you can select who you want to call in, too. Their builds are going to be fairly related to what type of weapons they have, what type of gear they have, and maybe what level they're playing at. So use some of these mechanics in the game to make it easier, folks. But honestly, if it's too hard, it's okay to quit. Okay? You don't have to just try to prove something to yourself if you don't want to. You don't have to slog through. You don't have to, care what other people think about. Just, if it's not for you, that's okay. Maybe ask for a refund. I don't know. But yeah, you don't have to buy it or play it, and that's fine. You shouldn't care about that, okay? Let's see. Something too is tons are watching Shadow of the Erdtree on Twitch. It's insane. There's depending on the day of the week, there's 500,000 viewers watching Elden Ring right now. So Elden Ring is definitely huge. There's a massive player count that has come back on looking at Steam charts. And again, there's also a bundle. If you've never bought in the game before and you want to buy it new, there is a bundle right now for the base game and the DLC, which is, I think... Let's see. Well, yeah, I think it's about $80 even if you buy it separate, so it really doesn't matter. Used versions are cheaper, but yeah, the bundle is $80. Again, it comes with the base game and the DLC as a physical copy, and which is really nice. They did a physical copy, but you can find the base game used and cheaper. Maybe not now. Maybe not. People are wanting to get back into it, and some never have. They're wanting to get back in. Also, too, if you haven't started the DLC yet, I wouldn't suggest starting New Game Plus. If you're already there, hey, go for it. But New Game Plus is really going to make it a lot more challenging, and it's already honestly pretty difficult. So, don't forget too, you can also use Game Pass, Xbox rewards, whatever, and you can rack up that credit and have Xbox pay for some of your stuff. I've already been doing that. I get about 120 a year at the rate I'm going. If I work on maximizing it, I can get about 150 a year. But again, this is just daily login bonuses, using the app, being on a computer or tablet. Okay, just getting those points. It takes maybe 30 minutes of your day, and let's be honest, we're all scrolling through YouTube or Twitch or TikTok or whatever that amount of time, or even more at night before we go to bed. So, might as well put your stuff to use and actually get some money. Let's see. Next, we're going to talk about Starfield. So we've had content creations. We've got a store coming in and all that stuff. And there's been some charges for this content. Now, again, not all of it is charged. Some of it is. But yeah, we're looking at $7, $8 for some of this content, which really doesn't necessarily feel super good about it. And something, too, that's kind of scammy is we get a new bounty mission. Okay, that's kind of cool. But it's kind of linked with multiple missions, at least a couple of them. The first mission is free, and if you want to continue, you have to buy the second mission. Now, that really sounds pretty trashy and frustrating, and I personally don't like that. It's okay, if you're going to have a little story, either bundle it all in a package and let us pay for it, or just have it be free. Don't piecemeal it out like that. It's just kind of, it's enticing people to buy even when they necessarily wouldn't want to. It's one of those psychological tactics, and I hate that kind of crap, okay? I think people should just be honest and just be upfront and just be like, look, this is what it is. If you don't want it, okay. If you do, go ahead. But, yeah, that seems just kind of scummy. There has been quite a bit of backlash, too. We look at Steam reviews, and people are complaining about this, that they're too expensive. And like some of these honestly don't feel like they're worth it. But I would say, too, that these are amazing deals, most of them, compared to like what other live service games have. Whether we're looking at Valorant, whether we're looking at Overwatch, whether we're looking at Call of Duty, take your pick, Diablo, okay? It's just, I don't think the community of Bethesda is used to this level of stuff. But again, we've already gotten paid content in Skyrim. No one really complained about that. We already got paid content in Fallout 76, which that was kind of a crying fit for a little bit, and then it was over. But again, it's like, folks, if you don't want to bet, if you don't like the prices, don't pay for it. Okay, don't pay for it. And ultimately, money is going to talk, or the lack thereof. Just remember that. Also, too, we found out with an interview with Todd Howard, Starfield is actually going to have a second DLC, which I'm surprised about this, because they said, during the coming of Starfield that basically there's going to be just one, Shattered Space. But now hearing that there's a second one, and that they're wanting to support this game likely for like a 10-year cycle, that's kind of a big deal. We thought it'd maybe be a flash in the pan for a few years and that would be it. But again, they're supporting the game. Todd Howard also talked about how ending support for Fallout 4, looking back on it now, felt like it was too early, too premature, and they're not wanting to do that with their future games, including like Fallout 76. That's why they stuck with it so hard. But like they're going to want to continue support with Skyrim. We thought that was more of just it's because it's Skyrim, but no, this is kind of their actual business model, is wanting to support games for about a decade at a time. And while they won't have a ton of people working on stuff, they still want to work on supporting those games. And so they kind of see Fallout 4 ending support too early and wishing they actually had have kept it going. Again, Fallout 4 is a great game. It's got a ton of DLC for it at a wonderful price, and I suggest getting the Game of the Year edition, and you can still find physical copies for actually fairly cheap compared to what prices are today for other stuff. And so, but yeah, I am excited too that Starfield is going to have longer support cycle. I think as they continue to grow it and build it, and there's also customer mods too, and creation artists. I think it's great that the creators can also get paid. But again, people all have their own opinions, and if you don't want to support it, hey, that's okay. No harm, no foul. Just respect other people's opinions or what they're wanting to spend their money on. Again, it's just like, if you buy the next Call of Duty, if you bought Modern Warfare 3, I mean, it's what you spent your money on. It's not ours. Again, I think Modern Warfare 3 was horrible, awful addition to Call of Duty, but, still a lot of people paid for it. Still a lot of people play it. And, we all get to vote with our money. Remember that, folks. Your voice matters. Next, we're going to talk about Star Citizen. So they're actually now banning accounts. Now, I do see this as kind of tumultuous a little bit because they're banning 600 accounts due to hacking. That's what they call it. So let's actually look into this. Folks are exploiting bugs in the game or systems in the game to actually gain more in-game currency than they should. And so they're banning them. And let me tell you, the business model of Star Citizen is freaking disgusting. I mean, we're talking hundreds, thousands, even tens of thousands of dollars. I'm not even kidding, folks. Tens of thousands of dollars to be able to get some bundles in the game to gain access to certain ships. It's literally a whale game. Not to mention that they've made over $650 million now. And think about that. They've made over $650 million on a game that hasn't even officially released yet. And they're banning people for using a glitch in the game for in-game currency. It's not like they're hacking other people's accounts. It's not like they're hacking in ships. It's not like they're hacking in something else. They're just banning the accounts because they're finding glitches and they're exploiting them. It's the first company I've ever heard of doing that. Are you out of your mind? Usually that stuff is just, well, hey, congratulations, thanks for showing us, and they patch it out. But that's not happening with Star Citizen. I suggest if you even are playing Star Citizen, boy, just quit before you get further into that black hole. Again, it's your money. You can decide what you want to do with it, but like this is getting ridiculous. And again, this is still a beta. I mean, in my opinion, this is just garbage. And they're currently selling a new bundle of like a ship or two with some other stuff for $1,100, $1,100. $1,100 for a small bundle of stuff in a video game. It just sounds crazy. Okay, it just makes the skin for like League of Legends that was $500 just sound ridiculous. But this is a concern of mine too, is that more games, more developers and publishers are going to push these kind of whale microtransactions, people that have a lot of money, and they're not going to focus on us little guys anymore. So folks, we have to be able to vote in mass if we're going to have a voice. Or just quit playing. There's that too. Just be like, nope, you're just a whale game at this point. You don't care about me. I'm going to go somewhere else where I'm appreciated, like Elden Ring or some other AA game, or Helldivers 2 as an example, or some indie games. You know, go where you're appreciated, folks. That's not just in video games. That's also a life lesson. Well, cool. Outrage is on. I'll have to chat with him later. Next, we're going to talk about Nintendo. So Nintendo is usually pretty stingy about content of theirs or their IPs being online, and they just love to cease and desist everybody, you know, copyright claim everything. And they constantly do that so much, most people just don't even show stuff of theirs, which I think is insane. I kind of want to do it and be like, oh yeah, you're copyright struck or whatever. It's like, okay, I'm demonetized. I'm demonetized anyway. I'm not going to demonetize... I'm not going to monetize this channel to begin with, even if I got to like 100,000 subscribers or whatever. Right now, wet dream, folks. A long time coming. I understand that. But hey, someday, I'd love to get there. But yeah, so right now, Nintendo is going after music. So fan creators have made some sheet music to Fire Emblem, and Nintendo is now going after them legally to get them to remove that, to take that down, to not be able to sell it. Again, Nintendo, they have some wonderful IPs, but boy, they are extremely jealous of their IPs. And boy, you better believe it. That's partly why they probably sell as many consoles as they do, because they are so strict on their exclusivity. But then they also do stuff like this. It's like, for Pete's sakes, folks, it's freaking sheet music. Like, you almost can't even make a video now, probably, or post it on YouTube of some of like Legend of Zelda music or like Mario, and you're just doing a cover of it. You probably can't even do that. They'd probably go after you for that too. But still, some good news for those of us that enjoy Palworld on Xbox and on PC. There is still no lawsuit against Palworld, and I don't think Nintendo has a leg to stand on, because while it is like Pokemon, it's not a perfect representation, and that's the issue. So, good job, Palworld. You figured it out. Wonderful. Next, we're going to talk about Bit Reactor. So, Bit Reactor, they make some like real-time strategy games and some turn-based stuff. They're fairly well known for that. They are a small studio, though, but they currently have 15 XCOM veterans working on a Star Wars tactical strategy game. So again, if you're really into XCOM, if you're really into that type of gameplay and stuff, and if you've never tried one, I suggest you try it. Give it a shot for a cheaper game and see if you like the game mechanics, because that's like what Final Fantasy used to be. Right? And now it's just all live action all the time, all in real time. But the idea is to focus on player choice in the Star Wars game. Again, it's supposed to be all of the units, multiple whatevers, different maps, a campaign, all of this stuff. But this will likely be a turn-based strategy game. But yeah, you'll be commanding squads. They'll have different abilities. You'll be able to probably... We're even seeing in other games some like chain linking of abilities or whatever, like kind of meshing units together to create a new type of ability or power or like boosts and all that. So I kind of wonder if that's going to be in this game too. We'll have to see. I'm kind of curious about this one. I do think this is only going to be a PC game. I don't think it's going to come to console, but yeah, I am curious about this game because I used to love playing some of those games when I had the time, the turn-based stuff. Now, not so much. Life is so busy, time limited, so it's like, well, maybe when I retire, okay, I'll get there. I'll get there. Right. It's on my it's on my list. So are hundreds of other games that I'll maybe get to someday. Also, let's talk about Ubisoft. So they actually released Beyond Good and Evil 1 Remaster. This is out now. This came out on the 25th, a couple days ago. This launched for past and current gen consoles for $19. I checked a few sources to actually make sure this was accurate, and I haven't looked it up on Xbox Store yet. I probably should, but I don't want to mess up my stream. But yeah, pretty insane. So if you've been waiting for a good and evil game, or again, it's been 20 years since it last released, they haven't done a remaster of this game yet, as far as I could find on any time. This is the first time, and this would be worth remastering, right? Okay, the game mechanics, the models, they're probably going to be the same, but we're probably going to see like reskins in 4K at 60 frames. We're also going to have other features like an autosave. You can remap your controls, which is nice, and you can skip cutscenes now. Okay, that really wasn't a thing back in the day, believe it or not. Young whippersnappers, we actually had to sit through the entire cutscene and we couldn't skip nothing. And so yeah, they've actually added some quality of life aspects to it, which is nice. They've also added some new content. So we have a treasure hunt in the game, which is supposed to link Beyond Good and Evil 1 to Beyond Good and Evil 2, if that makes sense, 2. But which is crazy because that's still indicative of like Beyond Good and Evil 2 is still coming. Now, this game has been 15 years in development, which is kind of flipping crazy. But yeah, let me get into the rest of the content here. There's also a speedrun mode. So that's not usually very common in games, but we actually have one. And then there's also 20 new achievements for the game, and we also have an anniversary gallery of like art to look at and stuff. And again, this is 20 years since its initial release, so it's good to be getting some. But let's get back into how long it's been in development. A lot of us really thought this game was dead. Again, we've been able to see a few things. There's a little bit of gameplay out there, very alpha looking, okay? But yeah, 15 years is a ton of time. But Duke Nukem Forever was 14 years in development, and Skull and Bones was 13 years in development. And so this is now the longest developed game in history, unless you want to include Star Citizen. I think it'll get over 15 years without a problem, being in beta. But I am curious. I am really actually surprised because, again, we didn't see this about anything in Ubisoft Forward. And Beyond Good and Evil 1 is remaster is like a shadow drop. They're just like, oh, here it is, by the way. It gets out today. It's like, really? Like, I kind of would have advertised that a little bit, maybe get people excited. But maybe, too, it would get more excitement for Beyond Good and Evil 2, which maybe is just too far away to really showcase anything. So maybe next year we'll actually see something. But again, it could still be years. It must be a skeletal crew working on this game, in my opinion. Because, I mean, they've been working on Assassin's Creed. They've been working on other stuff, too, like Star Wars Outlaws or like Frontiers of Pandora. So there's other stuff they're working on. And they even got a team now on XDefiant. That'll be like a 10-year, 20-year period. So yeah, I'm kind of curious. And Ubisoft said, too, it's like, hey, we're not going to focus on all of these other IPs. We're going to ditch a bunch of them. We're going to cancel some games. And a lot of us thought Good and Evil 2 was one of those games, but apparently not. It's still coming. So that was shocking. I was like, man, are you serious? That's crazy. Next, let's talk about Embracer Group. They're closing Pieces Interactive Studios. So they made Alone in the Dark, but it just isn't selling like they hoped. It's currently 63 on Metacritic. LinkedIn shows about 36 employees, so again, not very big. We take a look at a list at their games, and nothing really stands out. They had about 8 or 10 games or so. Some of these two were mobile, but they just haven't had a hit in a while. And so Embracer Group is just saying, nope, Alone in the Dark was your best opportunity, and nobody bought it. So, sayonara. But yeah, this is just another reminder that you got to perform. The industry is still in pain, and I would say even, too, just the broad economy is still in pain, and we're not done seeing layoffs. I mean, we're at 4% now for unemployment. We've seen, too, millions of job openings disappear. Like, we've gone from 11-something to 8 or high 7 millions for job openings, so we've lost a lot of job openings in the last couple of years. And then, yeah, we've gone from, like, 3.4 all the way to 4.0% now for unemployment. And when we start getting to 5, that's going to start looking pretty dang bad. So yeah, the economy is not healthy, folks. And we're not done seeing layoffs still. I still think we're going to go through 2025. I think some companies are going to be done for the most part laying off because they have some pretty good games coming. And I think people are just going to have to pick and choose with the money they have, thanks to inflation, on what they want to buy. And that's going to continue to hurt other companies, and other ones are going to thrive and survive. So just be aware out there, folks. It's just a good reminder that we're still having layoffs. The economy is not great. So just be aware of that. Next, we're going to talk about Forza 4. So this game is actually now being delisted. It's also on Super Sale if you want to get it right now on Steam or on Xbox. But it will be delisted on December 15th, 2024. So just before Christmas. And we found out that the issue is licensing. Again, it's licensing. Here's another game that's going to be delisted. You won't be able to buy it anymore. You could buy physical copies. One thing that is nice is that you will still be able to play the game offline or online. They're going to keep the servers running, but they technically can't sell it anymore because, again, they don't have the licensing. And so when it's delisted, it's going to be taken off of the Xbox store, and it's going to also be taken off of Steam. And then the only thing after that is finding some more codes floating around that you can redeem, or just buy a physical copy and play it on Xbox. That'll be the only opportunity. But it is nice they're giving us a big window. It's like, hey, in 6 months, this game's going to be delisted for those that want to play it. And I'm thankful, too, they're maintaining an offline mode. And I'm thankful that they're still allowing online play, some servers for folks that want to be able to play the game. Because I got to say, I'm really disgusted with like the first game, The Crew. You know, Ubisoft was like, nope, we're just going to kill it, and that's going to be that. And, we don't really want to go that route of games becoming a service so far that we can't even own them anymore. Because now it's like we're paying a $70 price tag, potentially, maybe even more than that, just to have a game for, maybe a max of 5 years, and then they take it away from you. I got a ton of games sitting in the corner. I got a ton of movies, too, that I'm stacking. We just bought a whole bunch of Disney stuff, actually, because we're going to get rid of Disney+. But, there's also a lot of great movies that we want to also buy and keep and maintain. But, when there's not enough purchasing, there won't be anybody to make physical media anymore. And I think that reality is eventually coming. We're already kind of having that issue. Not everybody is wanting to make physical media or physical movies or physical games, music too. Or you got to pay through the butt for it. And I think we'll see that too eventually is, if you want to pay for a physical copy, you're going to pay an extra $10 just for a physical copy. Thankfully, we're not there yet, but I do think that day is coming someday. But yeah, I really hate this delisting, especially when servers go offline, especially when you can't even play the game that you bought anymore. I just think it sucks. Something, too, is like we found out that Redfall was basically going to be delisted or just be taken offline or whatever, but they have added an offline mode, so you can still play it if you wish. And again, while the game sucks, I think it's important to remember gaming history. Otherwise, we are doomed to repeat it, and we don't really want to do that. We want to remember what was good and what was bad and continue to guide the industry to be better for everybody. Next, let's talk about what PC players are playing on. This was kind of interesting to me. In 2018, only 5% of gamers played on controllers. The other 95% were playing on mouse and keyboard. In 2024, 42% are now using controllers, and that is a really big jump in just 6 years. And of that 42%, 59% are using Xbox controllers. Again, we don't know what models. 26% are using PlayStation controllers, and 10% are using Valve's own Steam Deck, and then 5% are using something else. Probably third-party, Logitech's, Alienware, whatever. But yeah, that is just really interesting. It's like people like the versatility of the PC, being able to build it how they want, be able to just have one brick sitting on the desk instead of having to buy a new console every 10 years or 5 years or whatever it is, okay? and they're happy just to upgrade parts or components that they need, and then just having the cheaper availability of games because there's so much competition out there, and people won't really pay full price for most games. Steam knows that, Epic knows that, CD Keys knows that, G2A knows that. Okay, like everybody knows that about PC gamers is that they're going to buy them at a cheaper price point. And but I just think it's interesting too is that they're giving up the mouse and keyboard and they're switching more to controllers. And I think it's interesting, and hey, tread your biased, whatever. Well, I've played on just about every single system except for PlayStation 5. I've played on everything else. And I gotta say, I really like the Xbox controllers. They feel good. And I think PlayStation, they didn't really change their controllers all the way up through the PlayStation 4. And I think the PlayStation 5 is built a lot nicer. It's a lot more ergonomic. I don't know if it's higher quality, like if it'll last longer, if it's built sturdier. I hope it is. But, well, no, I guess the PlayStation 4, they did have a redone controller too, didn't they? Yeah, it's been a long time. Because, yeah, I had my triggers constantly breaking on those things. It happened so much, I eventually just got trigger kits and replaced them. And then I started making money fixing the triggers for other people. It was actually pretty lucrative for a couple of years. It was nice. But yeah, the PlayStation 5, the controller really has seen some big changes. And it's been nice, and it feels a lot better in the hand. I've at least held one. And, but yeah, people still prefer the Xbox controller. They just designed it well to fit in the hand, and you don't feel fatigued and stuff. But I just think it's interesting too. Like with mouse and keyboard, that's what I'm doing when I play Helldivers 2. When I stream that for you folks, again, I've only done it once, but I'd like to do it some more. But I got to get scheduling down with the boys so I can do that. But like when I play mouse and keyboard, I ache after a while. It kind of like it's not very ergonomic for me. I got to bend and twist stuff, and just it hurts. And with a controller, also it's a lot better for my hands and my joints, being an old man. But too, all of the buttons are really close, and I don't have to kind of hunt and peck on the keyboard, even though I've been playing for a while. I still kind of have to be like, oh yeah, where's O? and click that. I like that there's all of the buttons, that there's really good button mapping for PC. It certainly has its benefits, but people are now trying to get the best of both worlds. And I do think we'll continue to see an increase in ultimately PC players the rest of this decade. And I think we'll continue to see more people just switching to controller. I'm just surprised at the rate it's going. That's pretty insane. Lastly, let's talk about Gamescom. So this is coming out at the end of August, and this will be hosted by Jeff Keighley. So again, we'll get another Jeff Keighley thing. We got 3 of these now. And so far, we have Aerosoft, Bandai Namco, Blizzard, Capcom, Funcom, Giants Software, HoYoverse, Pearl Abyss, S Games, THQ, Ubisoft, and Xbox. They will be at Gamescom. And do you guys want me to cover that? Like a showcase? Leave it down in the comments. Because I will. I'll at least do a brief little and let you know what was there, what was said, anything interesting, so that you guys don't have to waste your time. I do. We did also find out that Nintendo and Sony now have said no, they're not going to be there. Again, they have their own showcases. We have a ton of showcases now, basically 2 for, it feels like, for almost every single company. And then there's still like the Game Awards and Summer Game Fest and Gamescom, and it's a lot to go through. So that's why I also consolidate those there for you here on the channel. But I was thinking too, for Nintendo, their last Direct in June, which I just covered, is actually really good. Do they really need to go? Do they have anything else to show? Probably not. Also, same with Sony's. I watched both of theirs earlier this year. Their showcases, one in January, one in May. And again, it's like the one in May just felt really weak. The one in January didn't feel that great either. There was still some stuff there, but again, the one in May was just a lot of rehash, and some of the stuff wasn't even there, like Judas or like Death Stranding 2. We didn't see anything. And the best things for their showcase was like Dragon Ball Z, the new game, Silent Hill 2 remake, excuse me, and then their failure flop of Concord. Like, that's what they showed for their showcase. So I don't think they really have anything to show at this point. And we know that the Game Awards is coming toward the end of the year, and more companies are going to use that instead. Again, I wouldn't want to pay the price tag though of $250,000 a minute. That's getting pretty insane. But two, could it be just too expensive? Would they rather just do their own showcases? That's what a lot of people have done. That's why E3 is dead at this point. They'd rather just do their own showcases. It's probably cheaper. They can control things a little more, cater it to their audience. But yeah, what do you guys think? Do they have anything to show? Would they rather just wait? Is it too expensive? Do we have too many showcases? Personally, I miss E3. And I think eventually Gamescom is going to disappear too. And that's just kind of an era that we had for a period of time where you could go and get hands-on and talk with developers and studios, and, well, that's going to disappear eventually. It just costs too much, and most people are okay with just watching it on a screen. Watching a stream, and that's just where we're at. So thanks for tuning in, folks. You can always follow me too at GamingGarbage22 on YouTube, also Twitch. Don't Tread on Thee, and then don't forget our Discord, link in the description. But two, I just want to say thanks, guys. Like, we hit 320 subscribers now. I just think it's awesome, and like I've been following some stuff with Doc, and man, what a mess on that. And while he shouldn't have done what he did, I can also just understand what that can be like. Just the hate, the pushback, everybody abandoning him, losing all of his partnerships pretty much, being even kicked out of his own game studio. That's just brutal. And yeah, he may not come back. I've also been watching too on Social Blade, and he's losing subscribers. Tens of thousands a day. And so, yeah, his career might actually be over. We'll have to see. But, he's still married. He still has his own kids. And, again, this was something that happened 7 years ago. And is he changed or not? I don't know. We'll have to see. But we all have our own decision to make on whether we want to follow Doc or not, whether we want to watch his content, to continue to engage with him. But most people that have something to lose, they're going to step away from him, including his friends. And, it's just a brutal reality that, especially for us men, we can't mess up. The world will have its justice, and there is no forgiveness for us except in Jesus. So, again, folks, hopefully you guys are doing well, and I'll see you guys on the next one.